There's a pretty one, Ulysses. There it is.
Hello, BookTube. I'm Seán the Book Maniac, and I am gay. So very, very gay. And Pride Month is coming up very soon. And here is my Pride Month TBR. I had a fabulous time in April doing Trans Girl April, so I concentrated specifically on trans and non-binary literature there. Some of those reads are going to spill over. This TBR is otherwise mostly going to focus on the G and the L. And I have never heard of bisexual literary fiction. If you have any recommendations, please tell me. But the G and the L is pretty much the focus of this TBR video, and I'm so excited to be getting to all these books. First, let me tell you about the ones that I'm carrying over, because I'm such a slow reader, because I'm always reading a ridiculous amount of books currently. So here are books that you haven't heard me mention for some time that I'm still reading and still deeply enjoying that are going to spill over to and hopefully will be finished in the month of June. The first one is this lesbian novel. I think that's one of the ways you can describe this novel, but you could use a whole bunch of other fabulous adjectives to describe it as well. Big Swiss by Jen Beagin. It was a new release, a debut earlier this year, and I started it soon after it came out, and I am now on page 70, but it's really good. I'm doing it as an audio-text combo, and it's about an American lesbian who moves to, I think, is it Hudson, New York? A small city in New York, gets a job as a transcriptionist for a sex therapist, and plot ensues because she falls in love with Big Swiss. That's really hard to say. My gay tongue wants to go to swish. But Big Swiss, who is a big Swiss woman, and she falls in love with her through transcribing her sex therapy sessions with the therapist. It's wacky and wonderful so far. Here is one that I started for Trans Girl April that will definitely continue into June, because I'm only on page 24. It's so good. It's so beautifully written. Paul Takes the Form of Immortal Girl by Andrea Lawlor. Andrea Lawlor is I've always thought they were a British writer, but no, they are from Western Massachusetts. And the protagonist is Paul, who is a gay man, but he shapeshifts into women and goes out and parties and has sex. So I don't know how much more trans it gets after that, but it's very political, it's very, very queer, and I hope to pick up the pace with this one in Pride Month. And finally, the other one that I will definitely be carrying into Pride Month is this memoir from Ireland, or from the UK, I should say, All Down Darkness Wide by Seán Hewitt. I just started it near the end of Mental Health May and haven't got very far into it, but what sumptuous prose. I'm on page 24. And I guess he's considered an Irish writer, but his biography kind of complicates that. But anyway, this is his memoir, which, like I say, it's his only work of prose. He's got some renown as a literary critic or academic, but also as a wonderful poet. I haven't read any of his other writing. But this is his memoir about his relationship with his lover, who suffered from very, very serious depression. It's so beautifully written. Okay, I have an ambitious TBR in addition to those, and here is a long list of books that I will definitely be starting during Pride Month, but which I will probably be, many of them I will probably be reading until the end of the year, if not into 2024, because that's just the way I roll, or at least the way I read, and I love it. I'm having a good time. But I plan to start all of these, and then I have a list of possibilities. My pile of possibilities is very short, that if I bail on some of these, or shockingly sail through some of them, that I would also like to get to. The first one that I will definitely be getting to is a queer novel from Poland, 11-inch by Michal Witkowski, translated from the Polish by W. Martin. I have never known a translator or writer to use one initial plus their name. Am I forgetting about somebody famous who only uses one initial? Lots use two initials plus their name, but I just find it very curious. This is from Seagull Press, and I'm doing this as a pseudo-buddy read with the wonderful Bernie Lombardi of Bookstagram fame. We will be discussing this at the end of the month, not having checked in on, 5 chapters a week or whatever. We're just going to hook up on Zoom and talk about it, so stay tuned for that. It is about two queer teens from Eastern Europe who go to Vienna and Zurich In search of better life as sex workers, what more could you ask for in a queer novel? The next one that I will definitely be getting to is a collection of short stories going back to the 80s, if not the 70s. Richard Hall's collection, Letters from a Great Uncle and Other Stories. This was put back on my radar by one of my subscribers and patrons, Paul. He recently read this and some other stuff by Richard Hall, and it reminded me that I had at least signed his books out of the library shortly after I came out in the mid-80s, but I can't remember if I ever read this collection. But this is from the University of Saskatchewan Library, which is where I was studying in the mid and late 80s, so it's entirely possible that I signed this book out and perhaps read it, but I have no memory. And now I've gotten it again. I've been saving it to read for Pride Month. So Richard Hall sadly left us in the 80s or 90s. He died of AIDS and published a few collections of short fiction, and to my memory, never a novel. But I've previewed this. I think I read the first 10 pages of the first story. This was published in 1985, and I'm looking forward to diving in. Here is a black gay novel that I've had on my shelf for years. I bought it in Tokyo, I think. I think I might have bought it on a trip home somewhere in Canada and hauled it back to Tokyo and never got to it. And now I'm finally going to get to it now that I'm back in Canada. And it is B-Boy Blues by James Earl Hardy. It's a classic black-on-black love story. The subtitle is A Seriously Sexy, Fiercely Funny Black-on-Black Love Story by James Earl Hardy. I mean, what's not to love? 1994. Here is a collection of linked short stories. It's a triptych of linked shorts. Oh, no, it's much more fabulously complex than that. It's a triptych of linked pairs of short stories. Lesbian Canadian fiction, and this is the author's debut. Swimmers in Winter by Faye Guenther. This was a gift to me very recently from my dear friend Lindy of Lindy's Magpie Reads. And that's what she's written. She always puts little notes in the book she gives to me. A triptych of linked pairs of short stories. They span a century in the lives of lesbian women. And it's a Canadian, specifically Toronto setting. I can't wait to dive in. This came out in 2020. Here is, I think, the only non-fiction book I'm going to get to for Pride Month. The Lost Library, Gay Fiction Reconsidered. Edited by Tom Cardamone, or Cardamone, I don't know how his name is pronounced. I'm going to guess it's Italian, Cardamone. He is an author, editor, and book collector. It's a collection of essays that he has curated on gay writers, writing about other gay writers, presumably older gay writers, and their novels that inspired them and meant a lot to them as gay men and as gay male writers. I have previewed this and can't wait to read it from cover to cover. This was published in 2010. Next is a queer British novel that I've been dying to get to. This was sent to me. I think she even contacted the publisher and had it mailed to her parents in the UK or something. But the wonderful Jo Smith, who is everybody's bestie commenter and a buddy reader in perpetuity that enriches my life week by week, month by month, year by year, she is the one who tracked this down because I couldn't find it otherwise and get it sent to Tokyo. So now I've lugged it to Canada and I'm finally going to read it for Pride Month 2023. 7 Nights at the Flamingo Hotel by Drew Gummerson. And it is so gay, and also moved way up on my reading list because my Irish novelist reading buddy Ronan Hession read it and loved it and said there's lots of male butts in the novel. So what's not to love? Published in 2020, and the dirty kind of stuff, that's part of the cover. That's part of the aesthetic, people. It's not a damaged book. It's in brand new condition, and I can't wait to finally get to it. I read the Canadian gay novelist based in Montreal, Christopher DiRaddo's debut novel, just a few weeks ago, The Geography of Pluto. I have a full review of that. I'll put a link in the show notes. And I am going to tackle his second novel for Pride Month, The Family Way by Christopher DiRaddo. And this came out in 2021. This is about a gay family. A gay man turns 40 and his friends, who I assume are a lesbian couple, ask him to help them get pregnant, and plot ensues. And here is a novel that is fairly hot off the press. It's a debut novel by a gay black writer from the UK. Small Joys by Elvin James Mensah. This was on my most anticipated 2023 release video, and I went to the local bookstore here in Saskatoon, Saskatchewan, Canada, and picked up my copy of it just the other day. It's set in 2005. The protagonist, Harley, who I'm assuming is a gay black man, but I don't want to read too much of this synopsis because I like to go into my books fairly blind. He drops out of college and moves home to his hometown in rural England, and plot ensues. The author is not hard on the eyes, and I'm looking forward to delving into this one. For some reason, and I think it might be a bit of a regular issue, I have trouble finding literary fiction by lesbians unless I go into the backlist, and I love the backlist, but I have found another one that is an indigenous novel that has at least lesbian characters. It is called Daughters of the Deer by Danielle, and I can get both the ebook and the audiobook from Libby, so I'm going to do it as an audio text combo. And then if I love the novel, of course I will buy it. It came out last year, 2022, has a really high rating on Goodreads, 4.43. It is a historical novel set in the 17th century in the Algonquin territories of what is now colonially referred to as Quebec. I'm looking forward to trying that one. So those are the ones I'm definitely going to start. I have two more, at least the first one of which I'm definitely going to get to in June, and that is two audiobooks. The one that I will definitely get to is a lesbian audiobook called Everyone in This Room Will Someday Be Dead by Emily Austin. And I did a bite-sized chat with the wonderful Bill from Nairobi. I will put a link to that chat in the show notes, and I'm going to do it on audio this month. If I have time, if I can squeeze in a second audiobook in June, it will be The Foghorn Echoes by Danny Ramadan. He's a gay Syrian-Canadian writer, and this is his maybe second novel, and it is about a forbidden love between two boys in war-torn Syria, opening in 2003, and then 10 years later, just scanning the premise, it sounds like 10 years later they reconnect in Vancouver and plot ensues. I don't want to know any more than that, but I hope to get to this one also for Pride. And finally, two alternates, or two that are, my pile of possibilities is only this tall because the ones I'm definitely going to start next month is like this high. But this lesbian memoir from Cambodia, Ma and Me by Putsata Reang. Is it translated? It is not. I know Greg of Supposedly Fun loved this, and I did a bite-sized book chat about it, which I will put a link to that in the show notes, and it's about a Cambodian-American woman and her complicated relationship with her mother, especially related to the author coming out to her mother. It sounds really good. It's just a little chunky, so I'm not putting it on my will definitely get to list, but I will get to it at some point. And the other one that I'm dying to get to, but I don't think I'm going to have time, but just in case other books don't work out, is The Town of Babylon by Alejandro Varela. This was a book that Ryan from California has sung the praises of on my channel at least once, if not twice, and it is a debut gay novel by a gay Latino-American writer, and I'll put a link to my bite-sized chat or my whatever the video was I had with Ryan, so you can find out more details, but that is also one that I could get on ebook or a paper copy from the library if I had an emergency opening in my schedule. So that is my very ambitious, very grandiose, very, very gay TBR for Pride Month. What do you think? Thanks for watching.